Soate discipuli and soate omnes. Welcome again to another episode of Latin in Layman's, where we're going to be doing some etymologizing. Emerson, I hope I can make your day just a little bit better because I'm sorry that you've been having a crappy day. I know that, we've been having a lot of crappy days as of late. I know that I've been having them. Maybe you've been having them. Maybe a lot of people have been having them because you know what? Life ain't perfect. Pain is fleeting, joy is fleeting. All of these things are transient. Trans means across. Ient refers to go. It just goes across. Everything is transient, right? That's kind of beautiful to think about. It's always a good reminder to think about how, you know what? I'm depressed, but at least I know that I won't be depressed forever. And that right now I'm just feeling my emotions. I'm sitting in them. I'm understanding them. I'm not shoving them to the side. It's about experiencing these things because a lot of the time I was told that you shouldn't push them aside. Don't accept those kinds of things. No, they're all a part of you. And Emerson, just like me, you, I hope you're doing all right. And I hope that this helps you out a little bit more because we're going to get into some, well, not typically etymology because you can't etymologize a lot of names. You can if they have a lot of Greek and or Latin superimposed in them, but well, superimposed would be above, but superimposed still. We're going to talk about some history, and there are a couple other names that I'm going to throw up after these ones here. So we're going to get into these ones first. So with that being said, Spotify would appreciate your support. We're up to 84 ratings on Spotify, you guys. 4.7 stars, because I know that somebody back in the day probably gave me like 1 star, and it dropped my 5 stars all the way down to like 3.8. So all good in the hood. It was probably just some sort of hater or maybe an ex-girlfriend. I don't know. But that being said, let's get on into these ones because I appreciate you guys and I want you to know that you know what? I do this kind of research for y'all. If you could do something for me, because come on, I'm at seventh period. I've been teaching all day long, and then I go ahead and do this, you guys. I'm not asking for anything. Maybe if you have not already gone and supported Latin and Layman's, you haven't supported me on. I don't even like plugging Patreon because I think it sounds kind of silly and whatever. And you can help me out if you want to over there or whatever. Just spread the word. That's all I'm asking. Throw it over in your family, your friends. I don't know. That's what I really hope. But with that being said, let's get on into these names because I love you guys' names. And then, sorry, I mispronounced it at first as Kalia, but you corrected me and said it's Kalia. And well, your name Kalia is Arabic for Khalil in Arabic, which refers to friend and or companion. If we remember my brother's fun little meme of an episode, com meaning together and or with, coming from the cum. And I'm not going to go into that as much with what my brother said about that one, but we know that silly boy. Pan coming from panis, panis in Latin, third declension noun, bread. It's where you get Panera bread. So where you get a pan, I think, is where they initially cooked bread from or in. Pan fried. Eon? Eon? Pertaining to, essentially. Just making that a noun. So somebody that you break bread with. Yeah, bread with. So if you didn't know, that's where your actual name comes from in origin. I think that's really cool. In that same vein, I'm going to go straight to the other Arabic word here, Guadalupe. Guadalupe. Oddly enough, Guadalupe is Spanish, but it actually came from the Arabic saying Wadi al-Lub. Wadi al-Lub. Interesting. Which refers to the river of the wolf, because we know that that part right there, that little suffix there, lupe, Lupin, Professor Lupin turns into a werewolf. Lupa in the Latin is a she wolf. Lupus in Latin is a male wolf, aka there's a wolf there, and then I guess That's where get the river comes from. If you didn't know, now you know. Let's get into the next one here. Carolina. Carolina, actually, I love this one because it comes from Carolus in the Latin, which means free man or strong. Now, you can think male chauvinism and all that stuff because what I'm trying to highlight here, because I know Carolina, you are a female. But that US ending, they genderized words in Latin. There's grammatical gender in Latin, there's grammatical gender in French, and other things like German and such. We in English don't do that. We have an abstract form of gender that is changed from just gender used to be just a classification. It was just to classify certain things into different, you know, it never really pertained to masculine and feminine until later on in history. So if it was Carola with an A ending, then it would be a free woman. But there was no Carola, I guess. There was just Carolus. But let's go ahead and just go ahead and say, you know what, free man slash woman slash whatever. You're strong either way. Chloe coming from the Chloe in the Greek, which I think is awesome, just a hard K. I knew that this would be Greek in origin, and you did as well because it just comes from blooming, which is also where we get the term young green shoot, like a shoot, like a bamboo shoot, for instance, or when a pothos sheds another little baby, it's kind of like a little shoot that it's blooming on. Next one here that we have Juan, my homie Juan. Juan, English is John. And what does that translate from in the Hebrew? It means God is gracious. And there you go with that one. Originally from the Hebrew. Emerson, our last one here, son of the brave, pertaining to the brave. I couldn't really find much more history in terms of that, but well, it was a surname that I know that it was given, and it gained a lot of popularity in the 19th century. So a lot of people were named Emerson. Um, Son of the Brave, of course, I know that you are they, them, and or I'm actually, you know what? I don't want to assume. So my bad. Um, but Emerson, one of my best Latin students, she's a girl, so I would call her the daughter of the brave. So if you want to go ahead and just call yourself of the brave, Emerson, that's what I think you should do because Emerson can be both a guy's name and a girl's name, but we can thank history and all the male chauvinism and all that stuff. So sorry, but there's that one for you. And before I get into these names, I just wanted to mention here because I know Guadalupe, you also mentioned Soledad was one of the names. Soledad in the Spanish, I do believe, just means solitude. So there you go with that one. But Madeline, Madeline actually can be etymologized a little bit and or historically derived. It's actually where we get um, woman. Well, it translates actually into English from the Hebrew, woman of Magdala, because this is where we get Mary of Magdalene. Okay, so it's just a derivation of such. If you didn't know, now you know. Madeline, Mary of Magdalene, Mary of Magdalene. Next one, Saren. I think that this one is super cool. I could not find anything on it, like nothing. So, you're unknown, you're unique, and it should ought to be that way, shouldn't it? So you got a pretty cool name. It's Zamara. It's Zamara. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that correctly. I figured out. Comes from the Mayan. It's Mna. It's Zamna. It's Zamna. Well, in history, in the Mayan culture and tradition, the Mayan god of creation. So, if you didn't know, now you know. That's where your name comes from too. So I'm gonna leave it there. I hope you guys learned something about your names. And if you didn't, and now you did, spread the love, you guys. Would really appreciate it. Tempus est discedere.